Delighted to welcome our second guest of the evening, the esteemed former world champion, Duke McKenzie, is on the call with us. How are you, Duke?
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Not too bad at all. Thanks for joining us. Talking a bit of Charlo there, Duke. Did you manage to catch anything over the weekend?
Yeah, I thought Charlo brothers done extremely well. I did tip both of them to win for the Ring magazine, and I tipped obviously I think the younger one to win inside the distance, and the other one to win on points. So no, tell a lie. I thought they'd both win inside the distance, but anyway, they both got the victory. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. A bit of Josh Taylor as well, just briefly. What about the body shot, Duke? What was your professional opinion on that finish?
Well, I've been stopped with a body shot before myself in world title fights, so I've got total empathy for the kiddie that lost with the body shot. Josh Taylor's very much on the ascendancy. Everything he does right now is just working for him, and I wish him all the best for the future. I think he's got a hell of a chance of becoming like undisputed champion. Like I say, he can't do any wrong at the minute.
No, very good fighter is Josh Taylor. Just going back to Charlo briefly, a future opponent mentioned for him is Chris Eubank Jr. Obviously, you were there on the night. Nazim made the infamous comment, I think he should finish after the Groves fight. It went a bit viral. You were part of it. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, listen, that was a big night for us, for the ITV network, I should say. And, listen, I love Hamid. Nazim Hamid speaks his mind, always has done, always will do. I mean, listen, Eubank is... He's still, to me, still unproven at the highest level. I'd love to see him in with any of the big cats in the middleweight or middleweight divisions. I think he's got a lot to offer. He's had a lot of time to, go away, regroup. I think he's been doing a lot of training with Roy Jones. So, listen, training with Roy Jones is one thing. Putting that into practice is another. And obviously, when the bell goes, you've got to be able to just go out and do the business. But I still think Eubanks obviously there's still questions to be asked of him, but I still believe that this guy can be a major force in the super middleweight division, not the middleweight, but in the super middleweight division.
Absolutely. We've obviously seen you on ITV, BBC back in the day as well. How's life after boxing going for you, Duke?
Oh, listen, I'm on a roll. I've had such a privileged career. And, both inside and outside of boxing. And like I say, I couldn't have asked for a better boxing career. I really couldn't. I don't really know what I can say. I don't really know what more I can add to that because, inside the boxing ring, I've had a great career. Away from boxing, my life has been equally fruitful in different ways. And I'm probably one of the sort of few boxers that have found peace in their lives away from the sport. I'm very, very fortunate.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear that. Obviously, we're looking at flyweight, bantamweight, super bantamweight, some of your former divisions. Do you ever look at the guys of today and think, I'd fancy him. I wonder how I'd get on against him. Maybe like an Inoue or somebody like that?
I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I don't think there's a boxer alive, past or present, that's been the former champion that doesn't look at the current crop of fighters that are around today and thinks that he couldn't beat them. Of course I do. But the reality is that I've had my time, and it's a different generation now, and good luck to all the guys that are on top in all of these different weight divisions. Like I say, I've been so lucky with my career. I had great management, I had a great trainer, and it's like I've had 3 careers back to back. Flyweight, bantamweight, and super bantamweight world champion. Where an average sort of world champion is normally finished after their first weight division. But I've been privileged, like I say, to have gone through 4 weight divisions actually, but winning world titles in 3, and I did challenge for a 4th world title. So, like I say, I haven't really got any complaints where my career is concerned. And I look at some of the fighters today, and I think to myself, if I'd have been born a southpaw, I'd have won world titles at 4 weights or maybe 5 different weights. That would have been a dream come true. 2 of my brothers were actually southpaws. Dudley was a southpaw. Clinton, my older brother, he was a southpaw also. But like I say, listen, I've had my time, and it's about the young guys that are coming through now. There's some amazing talent out there. I think the lightweight division right now is probably an exceptional division to be in. I can't pick one bad lightweight champion. I really can't. And but the lightweights have always produced, or the lighter weights, I should say, have always produced outstanding champions.
Talking of great lightweight champions, you always speak very highly of the great Roberto Duran. Have you ever met him, Duke?
I met Roberto Duran many, many years ago. Yeah, I did. It's very rare that I've been in the true presence of what I call true heroism. And I did an autograph signing. I think it was at Olympia several years ago with the late Alan Minter as well. Actually, by the way, God rest his soul. But yeah, it was me, Alan Minter, and Roberto Duran, and I was starstruck. I was absolutely starstruck. I just, Roberto Duran was sort of sitting next to me like this, and I kept looking like that, and I couldn't really believe it. I didn't really know what was. It was such a surreal moment for me. Obviously, I've been sort of, spoon-fed Roberto Duran from a very early age, and yeah, I love him to bits. He would be my all-time. Sorry, he's my second all-time favourite fighter.
Talking about great fighters from the past as well, you've always been quite vocal saying that sportsmen, sportswomen need to accept the fact that they're role models in society. Do you feel very strongly about that? They are passing a message on and a role model to the youth of today?
Oh, undoubtedly, I just think that all particularly sportsmen, because obviously that's what I am. They've got a role to play, whether they're a champion or not, because you're watched and you're under the microscope constantly as a champion, and you've got a lot of people, male and female today, boxers that are looking up to you and want to be like you. And if you don't, sorry, that's my pup.
No, that's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, if you don't carry yourself right, then obviously you're gonna leave a bad image in other people's minds, certainly, and that's not how you want to be remembered. You want to be remembered as an outstanding champion, both inside and outside of the ring.
Obviously, you were with Mickey Duff along the way. How did it go for you promotionally and stuff? Any issues or anyone that you didn't really get along with?
Now, listen, I love Mickey Duff. God rest his soul.
Hmm.
Sadly, he's passed on. But like I say, Mickey Duff for me represented more than just. He was more than just a promoter, because I had quite a unique relationship with Mickey Duff. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not the only one. I'm sure, because obviously he's had 19 or 18 other world champions. But I'm one of the privileged ones, I think, where Mickey Duff gave me a lot of his personal time. He took me to America at 19 years of age. He took me to Vegas to fight. And sometimes he'd bring me up and say to me, just come over, just for the experience. There were several times where I went over to America, where he took me to like Miami. When Cornelius Bros Redwoods boxed Hector Camacho in Miami, I was in Boza's corner. I was like his bucket boy.
Wow.
I actually brought the bucket to the ring and the stall. That was one of the experiences I had with Mickey Duff. There was other times when he took me to Vegas, and we trained at Johnny Tocco's gym in downtown Vegas. And on any given day, like Evander Holyfield was there, Sugar Ray Leonard put in an appearance, Hector Camacho was there, Bose Redwoods was there, Edwin Rosario, the late Edwin Rosario, he was there,
Yeah.
and Bramble. That's when they was all sort of fighting one another. But I was privileged to see these guys work out on a daily basis. And, I've been, listen, the list is endless. It's like a who's who of who's what in the boxing world. I've been so lucky to have been around these great men, these great times, and I have a wealth of experience that one day I will give back to the sport. I love talking about the sport, as you probably realise. I love boxing. It's my life. But one day I'll probably train somebody. I'm just not sure when.
Absolutely. I mean, you obviously come from a proud boxing family, all your brothers being excellent boxers as well, but your dad didn't actually want you to box, is that right?
No, my dad wouldn't let me fight. My dad was a very, very strict disciplinarian West Indian man. His way or no way. And being the youngest of seven, I can appreciate why he didn't want me to fight then. But I didn't really understand it then, and but I can now as a grown man myself. I've got a son myself who boxes, so I can understand my dad's concern for me. But my dad's reasons for me not wanting to box were completely different from me not wanting my son to box. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So my dad were purely, I don't know. I mean, to this day, I really couldn't put my finger on it, but he just didn't really back me like he did the rest of my brothers. I mean, had he have done, then he could have been a multi-millionaire. He could have put. My dad loved to gamble, by the way. Yeah, my dad was a bit of a gambler, and had he have put a few quid on at the bookies, then he could have made himself a few quid. Do you see what I mean? Because he was very proactive in letting Clinton, who went to the 76 Olympic Games, as I'm sure you're well aware, boxed Sugar Ray
Yeah.
Leonard in the quarterfinals. He boxed as an amateur and professional, Winston also amateur and pro, and my brother Dudley, who was an outstanding amateur. Dudley went unbeaten for 8 years in the amateur game. Dudley was absolutely sensational. He won everything. Didn't quite cut it in the pros, but I just put that down to bad management.
Just a couple more questions for you, Duke, and we do thank you for giving up your time on this Sunday evening. Obviously, plenty of big fights for you, some wins, a few losses as well. What were the standouts over your career?
Standouts over my career. The fight that made me was a fight I lost to Thierry Jacob for the European bantamweight title in France. That was a fight that I'll never forget. It was harder than any of the world title fights I had. He was an outstanding champion. I'd never been away from, I had been away from home before, but it was the first time I boxed in a hostile arena where, it was 15,000 French men screaming and baying for blood. It's the first time I'd ever been decked in a fight. It was the first time I'd ever actually thought during the fight I wanted to quit. It was the first fight that I'd ever, I had blood in my urine for 2 days after that fight. It was a very, very brutal. I class it as a brutal fight because I'd never been hit low before. I'd never been hit in the neck, in the eye, in the nose, in the lip, in the ear. This guy hit me everywhere, in the kidney. I'd never been hit on the thigh, on the backside. He hit me everywhere, this kid, honestly. But it was a great learning fight, and that fight helped me to develop a style, what I like to call a complete boxing style. I had another 20 odd fights after that, of which I won about, I think I won 16 of them. And with the same style that he beat me with, I used in every fight I had thereafter.
Yeah. You spent some time with John the Beast Mugabi as well. Tell us about John. What was he like?
Yeah, like I say, I've been very, very privileged to have travelled the world with Mickey Duff and John Mugabi. Cornelius Bozer Edwards is another one. He's a good friend of mine. I think he was Mickey Duff's first ever world champion. Me and Mugabi, we roomed together in Atlantic City several times in training camp when he was getting ready for the Hagler fight and when he fought Frank Animal Fletcher, I believe. There was one or two other times, but Mugabi was one of these naturally. He wasn't naturally fit. He was one of the worst guys in the world to train. Him and George Francis would have murders in the gym because George couldn't get him out running, and he'd always have to motivate him and one thing and another. He'd get him out eventually, but Mugabi wasn't what you call a clean liver of the sport, But very, 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 very heavy-handed. I see him knock guys out, spark out in training, not intentionally, you understand. Mugabi would never go into the gym, to go in and just beat somebody up. He wasn't a bully like that, but he just carried natural power, and he knocked out a load of guys in sparring. Obviously, he came up short when he boxed the quite brilliant Marvin Hagler, but, everybody came up short against Hagler.
Yeah, some fighter was Hagler. Final one for you, Duke. Was there ever a time you thought the fire wasn't really there, but you just continued?
Yeah, that happened to me. I think 2 fights before. No, tell it all. That's a lie, actually. Maybe 2 or 3 fights before I actually retired. Mm-hmm. I knew that I'd gone well past my sell-by date, but there was a lot of things going on in my personal life, which, like so many fighters before me, you start off boxing, you're wide-eyed, you're open-mouthed, then you start winning things, then life gets a hold of you, and then things don't quite go your way, and then you've got, when the money's gone and the belts have gone and all the fame's gone, you sort of say, well, what else can I do? I'm not a carpenter, by the way, and I'm not a bricklayer or a lawyer or a doctor, but so I kept saying to myself, what else can I do? And I just thought, like all boxers, you think you can roll back the clock and turn back the years and you can pick up where you left off. But the reality is the mind's willing, but the body's weak. And I knew I didn't quite have it. But when I was looking at the kind of guys I was being matched against, I thought my experience would pull me through. But I couldn't have been more further. It couldn't have been more further from the truth. I was just pretty much washed up by then. But, like I said, listen, I've come out of the sport, I hope, with all my faculties intact. I like to think I've got my health. I can walk straight. I don't blow bubbles when I speak. And, I've got a little gym that I'm running now, the Duke Box in my hometown of Croydon. I'm married. I've got a lovely wife. I've got 3 beautiful kids. I've got a lovely dog. I've got a little house that I've got. So, listen, I'm pretty content.
Absolutely, all good, positive stuff on a Sunday evening, then, Duke.
Yeah, I really haven't got any. I haven't got any. I haven't got any hard luck stories to tell. Listen, like all boxers, I've had highs in my life. I've had amazing highs. I've had what I consider one really bad period in my life when I lost my brother in '95. That crippled me, that crushed me, and that's something I have to live with on a daily basis. But other than the loss of my brother Dudley, my career, both inside and outside of boxing, listen, I'm doing a book now. If I ever get round to finishing it, then I'll send you a copy. Yeah, I'll send you a copy. But I'm doing a book. I just think to myself, there's going to be somebody that's just like me somewhere in this world that it will make a good read for, and they'll read it one day and they'll be able to relate to it, because I'm sure, I'm not your stereotypical boxer. Boxing. I didn't find boxing. Boxing found me, and like I say, I'm very, very privileged. I don't know where my life would have been had I not found, or had Mickey Duff not had managed me. That's all in the book. That's another story, actually. It took me ages to get him to manage me, but I mean, that's life. That's I come from an era where there was only two promoters at the time. There was only Mickey Duff, who was the massive promoter, and Frank Warren, who was the new promoter at that time, coming onto the scene. So had Mickey Duff not had managed me, I don't know where because Frank Warren had turned me down, by the way, at that time. I mean, he later went on to promote me much later, many years later down the line. He promoted a few of my fights after I'd left Mickey and one thing and another. But but like I say, if Mickey Duff hadn't have managed me, I wouldn't be sitting here now speaking to you as a former 3-weight world champion. I guarantee you, nobody could have done the job like he did. No one.
Well said, Duke. Absolutely top man, former 3-weight world champion. Thanks for giving us so much of your time. Appreciate it. Being so candid as well.
Mark, listen, thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it. Love the show, by the way. It's not the first time I've listened to it, so I'll continue to do so, and I'll continue to support you, champ. That's the name of the game.